Alright, another Professor Anton response video. Sort of a general subject though. This whole problem on YouTube where there's these levels of discussion subjects. Okay, no one's obligated to stay on any subject, which is a real problem. But beyond that, there's this horrible confusion between philosophy and psychology. I mean, people are playing psychologist on YouTube. They're explaining to people how to actualize themselves and get more out of themselves, or to feel better, or to do this or to do that, and it really doesn't have a damn thing to do with describing reality. It just has to do with finding some sort of life strategy or some other kind of crap. And it really should be labeled differently. It really should be part of different conversations. It has a different intent. Either we're talking about or attempting to describe reality, or you're involved in something else. Because this isn't what I'm doing. I'm not sitting here explaining to people how to get the most out of their life. I'm not even trying to tell people how to, be a good soldier and maximize their killing potential, or however you want to sit there and strategize this. I mean, I have mentioned that, yeah, if you're going to live, you might as well try to be Mr. Spock. Get the most out of your logic, stay strong, all that kind of bullshit. Don't let the emotions own you. Fine. There, the end of the philosophy lesson. I mean, the psychology lesson. Now let's actually talk about what the truth of our circumstance is, and not pretend that we can't deal with the truth because, oh, that's going to hurt us emotionally, or that's going to get in our way, and we're not going to be able to be good little soldiers anymore. We're not going to be... I mean, the whole time I was listening to his video, I kept hearing Old Man River in my head. I mean, this just sounds like a big fat, let's have a lie to live by, so we can just keep on rowing the boat down the river, and who the fuck cares if we're slaves? Who the fuck cares if life absolutely sucks? We'll just pretend like we're accomplishing something because we can't control the river. We can't stop making boats. We can't stop putting people in them. Bullshit. The only way we can stop any of that is to have a philosophical conversation about the fucking goddamn truth and quit pretending that our only obligation is to be some kind of fucking psychology. So, sorry about the speech, but that's why I'm making these videos. Is somebody's got to counter this crap and point out this is not philosophy. This is a psychobabble. This is amateur psychology.
It's going to be a little bit of a follow-up to some of the things I've been talking about in a lot of my recent videos. And I guess in some ways it's a return to some of the videos I had earlier about Stoicism and Epictetus. And they're also about the role that explanation plays. And I can't help but see
I can't help but see this fucking advertisement. What is it for? Accept payments in app. Download PayPal mobile payment library for Android. And so this is good psychology, right? Right. Whatever.
Debates and the concerns on YouTube, from my own perspective, be just very misplaced. They're helping people shoot their own feet. They're helping people learn to become victims.
Yeah, right. That's right. So when we talk about the truth of evolution, the truth of our context, yeah, you're just... You're not doing the slaves any good, to point out to talk about slavery with slaves is the wrong way to approach it. You got to explain to the slave that there's no point in fighting the man. He owns you, okay? And you just got to be, you got to be owned. That's the stoic thing to do. And so all you got to do is be a good worker, because no point in being unproductive, right? Fuck you.
People explain why life isn't like they wanted it to be. And in some ways, I just think it's very disempowering, the way that I hear some people account for it.
Yeah, right. Some people account for it. I wish in your videos you had the balls, the stoic balls, to actually point out who you're responding to, whose commentary you're calling this, who you're talking about when you're saying this shit. Okay, because I know some of it's directed at me. I don't know which pieces, but, I can't say for sure. But, yeah, have the stoic balls to name your opponent.
And, the way to maybe come at some of this is to say, was there a grand house cleaning that went on in the turn of the century to try to get people to remove a lot of false beliefs? Yeah, I think there were. I mean, not only do we have all kinds of religious beliefs that were,
yeah, and it was all among a minority of intellectuals, right? I mean, let's get honest here. The minority of intellectuals always knew that, yeah, the masses were idiots. Okay, the truth is nothing to do with what they think in their silly heads. And yeah, they wrote some books to each other and stuff, and people would read them now and then, the people who could read, the minority of people that could read. And so the intelligentsia and the elitists, at the ball dances and stuff, could talk philosophy and talk about the peasants and the silly regulars. And yeah, but it was just an elitist game that was played. There was no real honor to that truth.
Really radically question virgin births and life after death and divine intervention and all of this kind of stuff. Ghosts and ghouls and vampires and all this kind of stuff. I think we can say, okay, this is hook'em. But if...
Yeah, well, look, the idea of separating yourself or finding some way to separate yourself from the fact that all the things on the planet Earth, these things we call living things, are basically just cannibalistic, consuming and reproducing manifestations of a DNA molecule. I mean, you just can't get away from that truth. That it's all a engineered mechanism, and what it's engineered to accomplish is absolutely nothing. All right, it's just reproduction run amok, period.
Along the way, we also say, well, yes, all sense of freedom and free will was just as illusory. I think we are making a mistake. I do believe that.
Yeah, well, see, now you're not going to make a rational argument, something that a philosopher is going to demand or a scientist is going to demand to explain how you can account for something other, okay, than the fact that there is no special magic dust. Okay, there's no special force that tells you what to do, that manipulates your psychology, that you are a product of the world that raised you, a product of the genetics that produced you, and a product of the circumstantial experiences that took place around you, period.
That there is an evolved, determined sense of freedom. That is, humans have evolved the language that determines them to be free, or at least to experience their freedom in terms of choice, deliberation, the capacity to reflectively attend to different options.
Yeah, well, the fact that we have the illusion, and that's what it is. And so what's the big harm? You describe it as what it is, an illusion of freedom. That's all it is.
And then to select from one of those options. The ability to have foresight and to plan ahead, all of these things become just practical, everyday levels of freedom. And
yeah, well, they're as a practical matter, they're a sense of. Okay, but we can describe things that are a sense of. Okay, we can call our romantic attraction, we can call it love, and we'll call it romance, and we'll call it all kinds of pretty words. But we kind of know what it's about. Okay, and it's about some hormones and some mechanical things that are taking place. And yeah, okay, we will pretend for the sake of the fun of it. All right, but when we get into the biology class or the science, we're going to be scientists. We're going to be talking about the truth. We're not going to start using words like that. So, I mean, separate yourself. You're not talking the truth. You're talking psychology.
I think that, again, there's a kind of explanation as motive, where if we have an explanation for things, it eases our conscience. And Lee Thayer, a wonderful book called Pieces, that has this essay called Explanation.
I'm sorry. How exactly, if you're a slave, having explained to you that you've been just ripped off, completely ripped off, okay? That all these other people got their culture for free, they got their sophistication for free, okay? All the work was done in the past. It's like we're living on, 10,000 years of trial and error, people suffering, going through all kinds of hell for us to gain what we've acquired. Now, if we were to bump into a new island or something with a primitive tribe on it, yeah, they just haven't had the advantage of our high school education, right? And so we would treat them differently because they just didn't have the advantage of being able to live on top of that pile, that heap of learned experience. And it'd be a big fat ripoff. Well, it'd be the goddamn truth. So should that truth be hidden from them just because it would be unpleasant to know they're being ripped off, that they're being mistreated for no damn good reason? No, they should know the goddamn truth. They should get pissed off, and they should stick a fucking pitchfork through anybody who's going to enslave them's fucking goddamn neck.
Motive, and I do have some videos on that. I don't know if I'll post links there, but I think there is something about the way that explanations serve as motives, and that we constrain ourselves.
Well, so 1 minute you're saying explanations are excuses, and the next minute explanations are motives. I mean, this is just such bullshit. I mean, it's just some sort of rag on the truth. Well, we can't deal with the truth, so let's just be stoic assholes and just pretend that we're not in control, that we're not making decisions, that we're not causing the effects. Okay, because no, it's out of our control. It's Old Man Rivers owns us. We're owned by Old Man River. We just can't stop that river from forcing us to build them damn boats. We just can't do it.
Or we liberate ourselves in our freedom by how we live and operate through our explanations. That is, the more that you accept explanations and excuses, the more that you will pander to an immediate animal self. I mean, we could do it different ways.
Yeah, that's right. We could do it different ways. So everything you just said, anybody can do this to anybody else's philosophy. Anybody could just sit there and make up this gobbledygook and try to, you're just being infantile, or you're just being immature, or you're just not accepting your fate, or you're not just blah, 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 blah. There's not a fact here yet, okay? You're 4 minutes and 3 minutes into this thing, you haven't said anything that has anything to do with the goddamn truth.
But the more that you are tough upon yourself, the more that you expect high things of yourself, the more that you don't accept excuses and explanations, you'd say the more self-disciplined a person becomes, the freer they are. Now,
so again, he's making this argument that just isn't even an argument, because that's not what people are doing. You people are running from the truth, and you're calling that courage. What the fuck is that shit? You're just basically saying, no, the truth is it's going to get you down, man. It's going to get you down. Don't look over there. Okay? Just keep your eyes forward, man. To do what the Borg tells you. Be a good Borgite. DNA Borg.
There's a difference between freedom to and freedom from. I think when we think freedom, we often think freedom from constraint. I'm free from external coercion.
Yeah, well, that's really the nature of the word, The word, there is no such thing as freedom. There is only restriction and the absence of it.
But there is a different kind of freedom, which is freedom to. That is, I'm free to write if I take on the constraints of grammar. I'm free to, do what I want with my life and my world, to the extent that I'm really self-disciplined and not just caught pandering an immediate.
Yeah, pandering. So yeah, pandering. You're the guy. What's this ad over here? Pandering, selling something. What are you doing that for? And what are you selling, fella? You're selling books, and you're selling. Don't worry, be happy. Old Man River, don't worry, be happy. Blah, a mixture of the two.
Animal bodily gratification needs, sort of, on a moment-by-moment basis. I do think people can be more or less sort of aligned with their bodily appetites and bodily desires, and other people can exercise something like will and exercise something like strategic management.
Well, everybody exercises will, and if you're going to say strategic management, well, yeah, doesn't could we agree? I mean, it would. I think we agree on a lot of social initiative that requires a bit of human discipline. So what? Yeah, I mean, the point is you get there by understanding it, okay? Not by this hokum, not by this bullshit. You get there through the truth. The truth is you are responsible for your impact on the world. We can write on your gravestone, asshole, fucktard, shithead, useless piece of crap. That can take place, and you kind of, as a normal human being with an ego, you really don't want that. Okay, I mean, we know that we can control ourselves by just controlling our own ego. We all don't want to be the scum of the earth. We don't want that written on our tombstone, scum of the earth. No, you want to be a useful, functional human being. And the only way to be useful and functional is to be aware of the fact that you're satisfying your selfish desires is not going to guarantee you productivity. You got to be a little more conscious of the world around you and your participation in it and your influence on it. And I would argue that this living by these lies is what's gotten the human race in the mess it's in. Lies. And this is just another lie, this psychobabble, okay? It's not God, but it's the same kind of bullshit. It's the same kind of happy face bullshit that has allowed human beings to recklessly reproduce, recklessly invest in schemes and wheels and deals and false hopes and, three-pig fantasies that aren't going to get a better world built.
Of some of those problems of desire and bodily appetites and those kinds of things. Now, so, one of the things is just practically, people who are high-performance people, they learn how to act with no excuse.
High performance. Okay, so why don't you give me a definition of what these high-performance people are? You're talking about the people who own a lot of other people? You're talking about the people who inherited a lot of money? Who are these high performers? You're talking about the dead guy in the coal mine? He was probably a high performer. Are you talking about him? Or who the fuck are you talking about?
They learn how to talk to themselves in certain ways that get themselves to do things, and they learn to see that their life is a problem that they need to own, and they get in there and they fix it. And they...
Yeah, well, again, so fixing their personal life is somehow the game. So again, it's just about feeling good about your position and not recognizing there's a problem that needs repair, and that maybe the only course of action is run really fast with a really pointy pitchfork.
It's not a super fantastical magic wand. It doesn't make everything all better, but there's something that feels good about being an adult and facing adult problems and just owning them, responding to them.
Exactly, but what practical action are you compelling people here? I just don't see that. All I see is a bunch of jargon essentially defending some sort of system in some sort of ambiguous terms and not resistance. Don't recognize your servitude. Don't recognize the impossibility and stupidity and futility of your position, and certainly don't do anything to try to pitchfork any future of a redundancy, a repeat of the same mistakes. Stop if your motivation is to, I'd rather not stand on the boat and sing Old Man River again, okay? Fuck that. Alright? Fuck this conceding to some fucking dumb river. I'm not going to be owned by a fucking river.
Okay. I think the Epictetus issue in here is so much more important, which is in the ancient world, the Stoics made a distinction between things that are under your power and things that are not under your power.
Yeah, well, guess what? The universe has changed since then for the human race. Everything's under our power now. It's just a practical fact. We can blow the earth into a cinder. It's a fact. They couldn't do it back then. We can do it now. All we have to do is vote for it, and it's done. All right? So there's a whole different equation now than back in old Epictetus when they were still worried about the rumbling clouds and thought it was, God having a fart or something. So this is a different fucking world. So this is just kind of bullshit. Why should I look backward to find the truth? That's really dumb. They got everything wrong always.
And as soon as we draw that line, it seems like we do have things that we can control and things that we can't control, and those are, again, things of the will. Now,
I know there's ideas. But there is no, again, this whole idea of control. We can control, and it's only about the we part. Okay, so yes, and the conversation has to take place philosophically first. I mean, it was, the human race came to the realization of Darwin and Einstein. These were individuals that pointed it. Okay, these were individuals that it came to a head in. But it was where we were heading. It's where logic and the truth and understanding the dynamics was headed. All right, and that's another river you can't. That's your river that you can't stop. As much as you want to sit there and pretend you can. No, the truth will be revealed. And every bit that we reveal points out that this is futile nonsense, and human beings ought to start dealing with that, okay, and quit pretending that they're on some grand mission. They're on no grand mission. The best they can do is, find some way to jump on the fire and make it a big enough fire to burn down all these lies.
One of the best examples, and I've probably talked about this in Epictetus video, years ago or whatever. But there's a great line from the Enchiridion, right? It says, "As a mark is not set up for men to miss it, there's nothing intrinsically evil in the world."
Yeah, well, whatever. Again, so you're going to stand by that. You're going to just stand by this idea that the river is right, and any opposition to it is wrong. So we should just all jump in the river and let the river tell us what our fate is. I mean, that's just bullshit. There is right and wrong. There is good and bad in the world. There is pointless and stupid and idiotic and moronic. These are all fucking features of existence. And we should sit there and label them and find ways to prevent that negative ones. I mean, come on. This is just bullshit.
As a mark is not set up for men to miss it, there's nothing intrinsically evil in the world. So yeah, you set up the target. The setting up a target is a good, why? Because it's under your control. You can set up targets. You can have goals. Okay, that's under your control to set those up.
Well, whatever. Again, under your control how? I mean, based on what? If you have a desire or an ambition that comes at some other person's being compromised, I want to be a billionaire. Well, guess what? The only way you're going to be a billionaire is you have to take a whole bunch of fucking value from a bunch of laborers. You have to steal their value. So you can't do it for free. Anyway, let's not even get into that.
Aiming for the target once you set it up. That, again, is a good. It's under your control, and it's good to align yourself with what is under your control.
Right, and if your aim is to do something completely fucked-hearted, we shouldn't judge that? I mean, come on, this is just pointless.
Now, when you let the arrow go, whether it hits or misses is neither a good nor evil. If it
Well, yeah, whether it hits or misses, I guess, is going to depend on how well you aimed it. So there's no point in having the aiming process if your objective is not to hit it. And so if you do hit or miss or hit, then you have to do some recalculating until you do hit it, right? You got to get it right. There's no point in doing it if you're going to do it wrong. There's no satisfaction in just saying, well, I'll just keep missing the target. That doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, shall I practice doing something wrong forever and never make myself better because I'm not going to pay attention to whether the practice is improving what I'm doing? Come on, that doesn't make any sense.
Hits, not a good. If it misses, not an evil. And the point would be that neither of those are under your control. I think what we've done...
Well, like I said, that's just a metaphor, and it's just a crappy metaphor, all right? Because, again, the whole point of the picking a target and aiming at the target has to do with the result. If you're not going to get any result, then you have wasted your time. I mean, if your argument's going to be that, well, if only 5 out of 10 people hit the target, that's going to be good enough because there's only 5 soldiers that we need to kill. So if 5 out of 10 people hit it, that's good enough. So some of us can be failures, fine. But if there's anything important in this objective, then I guess you gotta do better aiming. You gotta pick better targets and do better aiming, because if you're missing, there's no fucking point in shooting.
In our culture and our society is we basically inverted that. We spend very little time worrying about our goals. We spend very little time, real and concerted effort, energy, and willfully acting toward that goal. And we're all happy when the arrow hits, and we're all sad when the arrow misses.
So he's just making some kind of generic argument that you're all lazy assholes or something, and that, somehow his thinking people with their little well-combed hair and such, they're in control, and they're taking control of their lives, and they're blah, 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 because they've disciplined themselves, and blah, blah, blah. Well, fine, again, but that's psychology. That's not philosophy. That's not describing reality. It's Prozac.
We have relegated so much of our control outside of ourselves, and now we feel like a ping pong ball being thrown around on the waves, but it's because we're living our life, as the Stoics would say, according to alien principles. If you live...
So the Stoics knew about aliens. Hey, that's pretty cool. Living our lives by alien principle. Well, let's go find out what one of these is.
According to right principles, the Stoics would say, you begin by asking what's under my power and what's not under my power, and if it's not under your power, it's nothing to you.
Oh, so that's something like the 12-step thing, right? Yeah, that little gaudy, the little religious little thingy about I'll take power over what's mine, I'll give God what is God's. Yeah, so instead of giving it to God, we have to give it to the DNA. Is that what you're saying? Just give it all. Give it over to the DNA. Give yourself to the DNA. The DNA knows what's right for you. The DNA wants those worms to dig deep into your colon.
It is nothing to you. Your health, let's take health as an example. Can you try to get in good shape, maintain a bodily health the best you can, eat right, practice, all kinds of athletics, things that keep your body in good shape? Yes, you can do that. Is there any way to keep your health under your control? No, you can't.
Well, look, it is control. You are exercising control. If you do all those things, the likelihood is you will exercise some control over your general health. That's just a fact. If you don't expose yourself, if you don't drink radioactive lead paint, guess what? Yeah, you're probably going to do okay. It's going to benefit you not to do something stupid. So that's just bullshit. It's under your control, it's a target worth hitting, and you can hit the target.
Not. And so, again, is it good to try to exercise, and is it good to try to keep yourself in good shape? Yes. Is health itself a good? No. Health is something that's outside of your control.
That's so silly. No, there's a proportion of it that's outside of your control, and there's a big portion of it that's within your control, or the control of your behavior. Your personal behavior can control a big portion of it, and there's still this 30% or whatever that's going to be outside of your control because of what your genetics are doing to you, or some other mechanism is doing to you. And what, should you just acquiesce to that, or should you say, well, I'm going to fight for that 30% too? We should fight for every bit of it.
Neither good nor evil. So if you're there, and again, this is hard for people to get their head around, but this is the position I'm trying to advocate. And I think it's one that people need to think about. And
why? Why do they need to think about it? What does it have to do with the future? What does it have to do with the facts of our circumstances, what life really is, whether or not this is accomplishing a motherfucking goddamn thing, and whether we should be selling the whole idea of the river?
Really come to terms with. And you don't have to agree with it. If you don't agree with it, just stop listening.
It's not about to stop listening. You don't get it, fuckwit. You're on the fucking internet, okay? You're like a Scientologist, okay? If there were Scientologists on the internet, some other kind of snake oil, okay? If there was some other kind of snake oil that you found really offensive, okay, and they were selling it on the internet, you might make a response video, and you might say, well, wait a minute, no, I'm going to qualify what he said. I'm going to do a little add-on to that because that's goddamn irresponsible. And I'm going to point out why it's irresponsible.
Look, if you're out there running and you're jogging and suddenly you die of a heart attack or you have a heart attack and you drop, that heart attack was not a bad thing. It's something that happened outside of...
Oh, whatever. Yeah, so there's a 6-year-old kid going through chemo right now, 3 bone marrow transplants, hasn't had a truly comfortable day in 2 years, and you're going to just say it's not a bad thing, it's okay, it's just part of the river, and don't get yourself all knotted up over it. It's okay. Right now we're blowing shit up. People are on fire in Libya. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is. The way the river. Don't die. No big shakes. Nothing to get yourself all frowny-faced over. Fuck that little frowny-face stuff.
Your control. The only thing that is good or bad, is how you respond to what is outside of your control.
Yeah, well, whatever. Again, if you want to eliminate value, that's fine. Go the fuck ahead. But don't kill the logic, okay? And there's still a Mr. Spock equation here. Yeah, look, Mr. Spock in the movies has never been Mr. Spock. Because, if there was a real Mr. Spock who only depended on logic, he'd always be saying to everybody, this is all futile, This is all quite pointless. Why do we keep perpetuating this river of starships and all this crapola? Where do you think you people are going? You're not going anywhere. We've been everywhere. We've seen everything. Right? There's nothing. This is all bullshit. It's all a bunch of animated matter, all swailing and swinging its arms around going, I need, gimme. There's nothing going on here, you fucktards. That's what Mr. Spock would be saying.
See, I think we do have something like a capacity to align ourselves with what's under our control and what's not under our control. And
again, you keep saying it as if we as a whole population have a whole lot of stuff under our control. We have wars, we have Fukushimas, we have all kinds of things that we can prevent by simply changing the way we live. And the way we change the way we live is by we having conversations about these things, not by we saying, this isn't under our control, we can't control nature, we can't control the forces of life, we can't do any of that shit. No. That's not how we take control.
To learn to be totally indifferent to what's outside of your control. And to spend all of your time, all of your energy, and all your effort.
Again, but see, what is it that's not within your control? Again, this is the fucking point. Alright, you can live your life and say, I'll never be president, okay? So yeah, we could just tell every kid, you'll never be president, you stupid asshole. We could have told Martin Luther King, you'll never be anything, you dumb blackie. You're just a dumb little fucking and that's it, right? We could have just completely cut his legs off and said, don't think you can change anything. Don't think the conversation matters. Don't think talking about it matters. Don't think anything fucking goddamn matters. Alright? And what would have happened to the future if that's the dominant psychology, if that's the dominant meme that's swirling in people's brains? Yeah, nothing fucking happens. Yeah, we need people who think they can change things, that think they can do, that think they can control.
Into what's under your control. And I think at that point, all of this fancy horse feathers, who cares philosophical BS about free...
Yeah, see? Yeah, it's not BS. This conversation about free will is more of a conversation about God and purpose and origins and understanding where we are, what we are, how we are. These are the simple questions that are directly a part of any discussion about free fucking will. It's fucking a religious argument, essentially, and you phantasmagoricals are sitting in the middle, pretending you can sit in the fucking middle.
Free will and free determinism and blah, 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 blah. It just sounds like a bunch of crap.
No, you sound like a bunch of crap. You just did a fucking 8-minute and 14 seconds worth of video, and you didn't say one goddamn thing that has to do with a goddamn thing about our reality. You just talked a bunch of psycho babble.
cares? None of it makes any sense. What you do is you prove your agency by making your agency appear.
Right. You prove your agency by what? Exactly. Exactly how. So you could have proven somebody's success or failure at 10 years old or at 30 years old. You know what's going to happen. You know what investments are the right investments, and words are never a good investment. I mean, talking about free will, that could not possibly be a good investment of time. Talking about our origins, who we are, what we are, and how we are, no, that would be a complete waste of time, because that contextual understanding could have nothing to do with human beings behaving in any more rational a manner, or being able to take any more control of their boat, or even take control of their boat making. Fuck you. Bullshit.
Parent in the world. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, yeah. I preached to you pretty good, didn't I? I told you assholes. You're all being assholes. You're not being super professory like I is. Yeah, whatever. This is just so fucking obnoxious. And you just pretend like you're another one, just pretending like, oh, gee, none of you people are dealing with my important substantive issues. You're all wasting your time talking about truth and facts and science. Yeah, well, anyway, this is not a good video. Fuck you. Yeah, until next time. There'll probably be a next time. Unless the old river sucks me down.